Jimmy Butler makes his return to the court in a loss for the Miami Heat. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Plus, the Mavs take down the Thunder. We're going to talk about all that, plus all the goings on Friday night in the NBA on Locked On NBA Game Night.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Locked On NBA Game Night. I'm Hayes, host of Locked On Bulls. I'm joined by Swiper, one of the hosts of Locked On Nuggets. Interesting night in the NBA last night. We're going to start off with the drama with the Miami Heat. They faced off against your team, Swiper, in the Denver Nuggets, where they lost 133 to 113. Talk a little bit about the Jimmy Butler stuff going on, but how'd you feel about the game last night?
Yeah, obviously, as many people know, Jimmy Butler had a 7-game suspension for conduct detrimental to the team, which I honestly thought was interesting. You know, we had a fight between the Dallas and Suns, and we had 1 to 2 game suspension based on that. So to get a team-issued 7-game suspension, I thought was a lot. But, you know, they felt like this is what's needed to kind of get the team back where it needs to go. Jimmy came back last night, and honestly, it felt like a normal game for Jimmy. Like, Jimmy this year hasn't been like as assertive as you would hope or as you would want. And I think a lot of people forget Jimmy 2 years ago was second team All NBA. Like, you know, but that was in large part because he was super efficient and he was like very good defensively that year. And Jimmy in this game, he actually didn't play a lot, like in terms of the first half, like trying to be aggressive. But the third quarter came out, scored 10 points. He was getting to his spot a little bit more. But, you know, the Nuggets and the Heat, you know, the Heat have not beat the Denver Nuggets in a regular season game in Miami. I want to say since like 2018 or 19.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so it's been a long time. Like the Heat, for whatever reason, as good as they are, and as good as the iterations of the team has been, Denver is just a horrible matchup for them. And, you know, Jokic yesterday, he comes out in the arm sleeve, you know, because he has the little elbow issue that he's, you know, had, I think, after the Dallas game that forced him to miss the game versus the Rockets. And, dude, he comes out and, like, throwing the craziest passes you've ever seen, like over people's heads, double team, whips to the corner, like whips no look to Jamal Murray in the corner. He threw an over the head fast break ball, like the ball went ahead of him. He caught it, tapped it back, perfect behind the head bounce pass to Aaron Gordon for a dunk. So 24, 12, and 10 for him on 9 of 12 and 3 quarters, 17 triple-double this year. But, Hayes, the story is Jamal Murray. Yeah. Jamal Murray, last 3 games, is averaging 32.3 points per game on 71 true shooting. He has been going bonkers. And also, I think a little extra note for people, because I think Jamal, for a lot of the year, Hayes, hasn't played super well. Well, Jamal, since December 1st, is averaging about 21.5, 6.5 assists, almost 4 rebounds. And he's doing this on 48, 43, 91 splits. And so he's actually been picking up his game. And another thing, hey, Aaron Gordon, he's been back. He comes off the bench again. And the way the Nuggets have been solving the non-Jokic minutes this year is they've been putting Murray with MPJ, and now with Gordon coming off the bench, they're staggering with Gordon and DeAndre Jordan and Julian Strawther. And they actually did better in the non-Jokic minutes than they did in the Jokic minutes yesterday, which I think is a huge development. But Miami, man, Jokic is a good player, dude. Like, he's become I think an assertive shooter. He has a very fluid game for a guy that's tall. Like, he can beat you off the dribble. He's just a really smart player. I think he played well. I think Bam Adebayo played really well yesterday. He just obviously had to deal with Jokic all over the course of the game. And Tyler Hero, Hayes, I don't know how you feel about it, but like I said, I think Tyler Hero is going to be an all-star this year. He didn't have the best game yesterday, but, I mean, I've been really impressed with how he's played. And overall, like, I'm still, like, kind of impressed with how the Heat have played this year, given the circumstances.
Yeah, given everything that's going on with the Miami Heat and what they've dealt with, they to be at 500. I mean, it's cool. They fall into the 9th seed now, I think, in the Eastern Conference. So you have to make a decision soon. I want to ask you this question because of Jokic is putting up one of the best seasons in NBA history when you look at it, most efficiency standpoint, all of that. But, he's not necessarily as high up in the MVP ladder because of what Shea's doing and what the OKC Thunder are doing. I want to throw this question to you. We know what Jokic is going to do on the basketball court. How many games do you think the Denver Nuggets have to win for Jokic to win MVP today over a player like Shea?
So right now, if you look at the MVP award tracker, it's a probability ranking based on how previous votes have gone. Jokic has a 60% probability to win the MVP, but that's obviously different than the voting. You know, Shea's been number one in back-to-back weeks on NBA.com. But if Jokic is averaging like 29, 13, and 10 on like 66 true shooting or whatever, and he's hitting 47% from three, and the Nuggets are winning like 51, 52 games, I think it's going to be really hard to not make sure he gets the award, just because like he's still going to be the most outstanding player in the league. I think Hayes, where I am with it is, I think SGA has put together probably one of the most impressive cases I've seen, just because like he's been an elite scorer this year. And we're going to talk about that Mavs game later. Look, OKC has an incredible defense, but they bottom out offensively when Shea is not there. Like, it's just a way different squad. And obviously Chet's not there. Hart wasn't there. So I think if Jokic is able to cross that 51, 52, 53 game winning standpoint, and on top of that, they're a game and a half out from the number 3 seed, and they're about 3 games out from the 2 seed. Now, if they get up to the 2 seed, I think, Jokic is probably going to win. But if he's at the 3 seed with 51, 52 wins or something like that, I think there's going to be a really strong case for him.
Agree, 100% agree with that. Let's get into that game that you talked about. The Dallas Mavericks, they get a win over the Thunder. After the Thunder get a really big win over the Cleveland Cavaliers, they turn around and lose this game to the Mavericks. Yeah. We do have the host of Locked On Mavericks, Nick Angstane, and we're going to hear from him real quick.
An OKC Thunder play a normal game challenge. Failed in this one. An insane game again. These two teams just cannot play a normal game between the two of them. The Mavs got out to a 10-0 lead to start this game. The Thunder rallied back with a 9-0 run themselves, and then Dallas built up a 20-point lead out of halftime, 63-43, and they lost all of it in the third quarter. An absolute meltdown from both teams. A meltdown from the Thunder in the second quarter, meltdown from the Mavericks in the third quarter, and then in the clutch, just big, huge moments from a bunch of different guys. Spencer Dinwiddie came up absolutely massive. He finished with 16 points with some absolutely clutch buckets. Kyrie Irving returned to form, 25 points, 9 of 19 from the field. And what can you say about the God of Thunder? PJ Washington, 16 points, 7 boards, 5 assists, 5 fouls. He earned every single one of those fouls and probably should have got more in this one, and was just mucking it up with OKC. Going back and forth, him and Lou Dort were trying to challenge to see who could get more violations. An incredible game for the Dallas Mavericks. A win, they'll take it.
The Dallas Mavericks need to stack up the wins that they can, especially while Luka's out, to stay afloat until he does come back. They've gotten Kyrie back. This was a game where, listen, they took advantage of the Thunder missing players. They won it outright. They played better down the stretch of the game. How'd you feel?
Well, look, I figured Dallas would win that game, obviously, but again, I just want to give a credit to Mark Daigneault. Like, they do not quit. And, it's a funny thing because people might think it's gas. Like, they were the Thunder were down 8 points with 22 seconds left in that game, Hayes. And Mark is still calling challenges. And they lost it. But what Mark does, he has built a culture with the Thunder that no matter how far out the lead might be, there's never a moment when the whistle is live, you stop playing as hard as you can.
It's a fact.
And there's a lot that you can take from that. And I think especially in building championship habits that way, that's really important for you to be able to solidify that kind of culture. But Kyrie, he comes back just a few games ago. He played really well in some spots today. Like, again, like the ultimate shot creator for that team, 25 points for him, 5 assists, 5 rebounds. His ball handling is really important, especially versus a team like the Thunder, when you got to be able to create as much space as possible. And they go 3 for 8 from 3, shot 47% from the field, 4-4 from the field, from the free throw line in this game. Won his minutes. Spencer Dinwiddie, though, down the stretch of the game was the difference, Hayes. Like, he was hitting shots. And that's one of the things, too. And this is where my credit for Nico Harrison goes. Like, they have just found a way. We need some really strong interior bigs, Lively and Gafford. Obviously, Lively didn't play. And then you got Luka and Kyrie. But we just need to have some other players around them that are able to create a little bit and, like, able to take the pressure off. Najee Marshall did that. 14 points today. 10 rebounds for Najee Marshall. And then you get Spencer Dinwiddie doing what he did. Klay Thompson did not have like a good game or a standout game at all. I think it's really difficult to get off as a shooter when you can't really dribble the ball versus OKC. And then you get PJ Washington, 16, 7, and 5. So just really all around great performances by the Dallas Mavericks. And the other side of this court, Lou Dort, 6 of 8 from 3. Hayes, 6 of 8 from 3. Just absolutely bombing threes, kept them in the game down the stretch. And then J-Dub only had 19 points. He was a minus 12 in this game. 7 of 22, not a lot of good decision making on behalf of J-Dub, but I think this is a great game for him to grow to get him ready for April.
Yeah, and that's the key thing with this. Like, if they can use this for everybody to kind of find their rhythm without Shea, like that's gonna just strengthen this team. You still got Chet coming back at some point too. So yeah, they lost this game unfortunately, but you know the Thunder is still clearly one of the best teams in the NBA, and they're gonna be a difficult out come playoff time. But we're gonna continue talking about the NBA last night and everything going on in there. We're gonna jump into the game with the Celtics beating the Dallas Mavericks, but first, got to get some message from one of our sponsors, and that's Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on retirement contributions. The privileges of the very privileged are no longer exclusive. With Robinhood Gold, your annual IRA contributions are boosted by 3%, plus you also get a 4% APY on your cash in non-retirement accounts. That's over 8 times the national savings average. The perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive your 3% boost on your annual IRA contribution, sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Investing does involve risks. The 3% match requires Robinhood Gold at $5 a month for 1 year from the first match. Must keep funds in your IRA account for 5 years. Go to Robinhood.com/boost. The over 8 times national average savings account interest rate claim is based on data from the FDIC as of November 18th, 2024. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. Locked on Game Night coming up next. All right, let's get into it, man. The Celtics defeat the Orlando Magic 121-94. Jason Tatum does score 30 points in this game, and they came out and just were firing. We do have, of course, we have Philip Reitman from this one. Let's go ahead and play this now.
This is Philip Rossman-Reich, the host of Locked On Magic, as the Orlando Magic fall to the Boston Celtics 121-94. If this isn't rock bottom, then I don't know what is. And maybe there'll be one more loss with the Denver Nuggets coming to town on Sunday before the schedule eases up and gives this Magic team a chance to breathe. But frankly, that's where we're at this point. The Magic just need a chance to breathe, a chance to kind of find themselves again, a chance to make some mistakes, because the bottom line is this. Right now, this Magic roster is not capable of playing Magic basketball. They've told us a million times that we are enough. And I do believe that they believe that. And I do believe that when they're playing right, when they're playing the right way, they have enough. But the bottom line is right now, this group just doesn't have the talent to play consistently enough to win games, especially against opponents as good as the Boston Celtics, even with the struggles that they've had. The Magic right now just are a shell of themselves. There's no other way to describe it. And the Magic are trying to survive. We do know that Franz Wagner is probably coming back within the next week and a half. Jalen Suggs is probably sooner coming back as well. But this Magic team is struggling. This Magic team is looking for answers. And this Magic team just doesn't have it right now.
If this is the rock bottom for the Dallas Mavericks, for the Orlando Magic, I'll say this. They've done a pretty darn good job. Like, they're still top 6 in the Eastern Conference, despite all the injuries that they've run into over this time period. They still are avoiding the play-in, which I think is key, especially in the Eastern Conference, if you can avoid it. Do you agree? Do you think that this is the rock bottom for the Orlando Magic?
I mean, I'm sure it feels that way for them. I think just because how many injuries do you have to deal with, in terms of your overall roster and really key rotation players. So I understand that. Look, first it was Paolo, and then Franz, and then you lose Mo, and then Jalen Suggs is out. So there's just like a litany at all times that they're dealing with. And this game was close in the second quarter. Like, it was 44-49 with about 4 minutes and 50 seconds left. And then that's when things started to slip away in the second quarter. Like, the Tatum played really well. They were just getting to their spots. They were converting their looks. The defense showed up today as well. But again, I think that's what he's talking about too. Like, they don't have the offensive horses to be able to keep up with like these little runs that really high level opponents will go on over the course of the game, because they just don't have their guys to be able to do that. Because all of a sudden the third quarter comes around and Boston starts to look like Boston. Boston starts to hit their shots. Boston starts to take care of their business. They're playing very smart basketball. They're moving the ball around. And in the third quarter today, the Magic just had nothing to offer. And then you get 13 points in the third quarter alone from Jaylen Brown. You get 9 from Kristaps Porzingis. And you get 3 threes hit by Boston over that stretch. But they go 13 of 14 from the free throw line. That was the other part of the story in the third quarter. They started to attack. And because of the size differences and because of the issue that they were facing on the other end, Boston was constantly getting to the rim and constantly getting contact. And so they were just able to put the gap even further between the two teams. So, yeah, I feel bad for the Magic. I feel really bad for Jamal Mosley. But what I found, Hayes, is that, you might go through this for half a year, but then all of a sudden everybody's healthy and they can beat anybody. I mean, that's how good the Magic are. They have a floor that I think because of their defense and because they have some expected shot makers on the team that they can actually perform well come playoff time. But they just truly need to get all their guys back, obviously, besides Mo.
Yeah, and I have extreme confidence that once they do have everybody back, it may take a little while to get everybody back on the same page, but this is going to be one of those teams that finishes extremely strong. And I think, especially if you look at after the All-Star break, I wouldn't be surprised if they go on a crazy run between the All-Star break and then before the playoffs. They just got to be healthy in the playoffs, as healthy as possible. We know Mo's not coming back, but I'm not knocking this team. And like I said, what they've been able to do with all the injuries that they've had and being able to stay afloat has really been admirable. And I expect the team to keep fighting hard, man, and keep winning games. Getting to the next game, the Timberwolves over the Knicks, 116-99. The Wolves needed this game. We've had Anthony Edwards a lot call out the starting lineup himself. He also holds himself accountable. He seems like a very frustrated young player that, of course, kind of is coming to the realization that after last year and the run that they went on, this team just isn't as good as what they were. But he does score 36 points in this one, 13 rebounds, 7 assists, near triple-double in this win over the Knicks. How you feeling?
8 of 13 from 3 in that game as well. Like, yeah, that's an incredible game from Anthony Edwards. Like, that's something you would expect, like, from Giannis to get 36, 13, and 7. So an incredible game by him. The shot making was there. Rudy Gobert, the defense, again, his defense is continuing to be a problem. Obviously, he's going to be in the running for DPOY, even though he's not going to win because people do not want him to win. But they held the Knicks to 100 offensive rating today. And so they're just a really good team. I really like how aggressive they played in this game. And once they got out to a lead, they did not let up. They were not letting up the pressure at all. And then Mike Conley being able to give them 13 points, 3 of 5 from the 3-point line. But the biggest story, though, was Nas Reed. 6 of 6 from 3. 6 of 6. Yeah. So just imagine the backbreaker that is, that like you're playing really good defense. All of a sudden, you just leave a half a gap open for Nas Reed. He's able to convert at the 3-point line. So they should be better than what they are right now. Jaden McDaniels is having just a slept on, not so great year this year. And I think that's affected them a lot over the course of the season. Julius Randle, I never thought was going to be a good fit anyway, for several different reasons, but I don't know if they're going to be able to move off of him. They're definitely like trying to do their earnest to see if they can find a way to salvage like their starting lineup. But I will say, when they have Nas Reed, they got like Mike Conley, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Dante DiVincenzo. They do have like a very solid squad. And so they were able to put that together today, and they were able to get a really dominant win versus a good Knicks team.
Yeah, I mean, and this Timberwolves team has talent, and it's so weird when you look at like the on-off numbers, because it really just is Jaden McDaniels. Like, they are so much worse of a team when Jaden McDaniels is on the court this season that, a lot of people blame the Julius Randle thing, but Julius Randle actually, they have a positive net rating when Julius is on the court with both Rudy Gobert and Anthony Edwards. It's just when you introduce Jaden McDaniels. So now, I'm not saying it's that simple when you're trying to figure out the balance of a team, but the Wolves are definitely going to have to figure out some things to kind of fix or work on that balance, whether it's during this season if they could try to correct it, or if it's in the offseason, because there's just something that's not working out with that team.
Yeah, and to your point, when Jaden and Julius per PB stats this year, when they're both on the court, barely had positive net rating this year. But Julius, no Jaden, they're a plus 11.29 in that instant. And that's because their offense, they're shooting 39% from 3 in those minutes. They're shooting 52% from 2 in those minutes. And they're even winning their minutes where Jaden and Julius are off this year. But again, that's when you're putting Dante DiVincenzo and you're putting Nas Reed into the game. Yeah. So there's not like any true drop off. And so, yeah, I mean, some of this is Jaden is just functionally not scoring as well, shooting as well. And, even defensively a little bit, he's not been as dominant as he was the year prior. And so that's obviously causing them a lot of issues right now. And then again, if you just kind of go through the Minnesota's roster, Like, he is currently the 7th best offensive player on their team per EPM, and he has a negative value on the offensive end. Again, it's just because the shooting has just simply not been there. He's shooting 33% from three, 61% at the rim, and 40% from mid-range this year. And obviously, when you're clogged as much as they are in the paint because they got Randall and they got Rudy, and then you can't space, that's literally why Ant is taking as many threes as he is, because they just have no other way to generate points unless he's hitting a lot of jump shots. So Jaden has to step up on that end. He has to be better on that end. And especially coming off last year where he legitimately won game 7 for them versus Denver. Like he won. He was 8 of 10 from the field in that game. And, so you hope he bounces back. And I really like him as a player.
For sure. Next up, we're going to be talking about the remaining games left in the NBA as we go around the NBA on Friday night. But first, we got to get to a message from a couple of our sponsors. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make the playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Also got to get into a message from Skims. When I found out that Skims was making underwear for men, I was intrigued. I've heard so much about the quality from friends and family, and now their men's line offers the same comfort and style they're known for. If you've ever struggled with finding the right underwear, whether it's fit, comfort, or just the right style, Skims has you covered. Their men's line includes options for everyone, from boxer briefs to classic briefs, all designed with the perfect balance of comfort and style. The Skims Stretch 5-inch boxer brief is a great choice for an active lifestyle. They're designed to move with you, stay in place, and never lose their shape. Whether you're working out or running errands, you'll love the lightweight and how comfortable they feel. Almost like you're wearing nothing at all. Shop Skims Man at skims.com/LockedOnNBA and at Skims stores. Let them know we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. More Locked On Game Night coming up next. All right, we got a couple of games to catch up on before we get out of here for today. First one, Milwaukee Bucks over the Toronto Raptors, 130-112. Giannis Antetokounmpo in this game, 35 points, 12 rebounds. He continues his double-double stretch, which he's been killing. I think it's 12 straight he's up to now. Dame also chips in 26 points and 8 assists. Bobby Portis with 15 points off the bench. How you feeling about the Bucks here?
Yeah, they're, I think, slowly but surely continuing to rise up the standing this year. I like the Bucks team. They had a really slow start that obviously affected kind of where they are currently in this season, but they were dominant. And again, like, the Raptors aren't good. Like, obviously they're not good, but they play really hard. And then on top of that too, they just beat Boston. Like, so they're not a team that, like, you can take lightly, because they do a lot of things that really try to trip you up and confuse you as a team. And today, Giannis was able to just do what he needed to do, dominate that game. I'll be curious to see the next stretch of games for the Bucks. I do think they should have a favorable schedule. They play versus the 76ers tomorrow. Then they got the Pelicans. They play versus the Heat. They got the Clippers. So, like, there's going to be some tough matchups in here for them. But again, like, if they can continue to win the game, they're currently sitting at the 4 seed. They're 2.5 games out of the 3 seed with the Knicks, and they're a game ahead of the Pacers. So they're, like, in really good position to have home court advantage through the playoffs, despite how badly they started off this year. So I'm really actually encouraged to see how well the Bucks have been playing as of late.
Yeah, really encouraged by the Bucks. I love the way that they've been playing, and they're going to keep. They've kind of gotten back to where I expected them to be before the season started. They're going to win some games. It's going to be difficult out in the playoffs, but of course, we'll see how far they can get. They're a team that still could be looking to make moves as well before the trade deadline. The Pelicans next up, they get a win over the Jazz, 136-123. Zion had 24 points, 14 rebounds. He had a bunch of dunks in this game, playing really well. It's good to see Zion when he does play well. Like, I still root for Zion. I know that he's been a troubled player. He's had his difficulties, but Zion's a player that I hope can eventually pull it together, because he is such a talent when he's on the basketball court. How you feeling?
Yeah, 24, 14, 6 for Zion. And again, like he is one of the most dominant rim players that we've ever seen in our league when he's healthy. So you want to continue to see him to grow. But again, the underrated story of the year for the Pelicans with all the injuries they've had is Trey Murphy. Trey Murphy, 19, 4, and 5, 6 of 11 from the field. And he, for several years of his career, was known. He's a really good shooter, and he's a great high flyer, like a great utility player. And then defensively, he has a lot of upside for this team. But because of the situation they've been in as of late, Trey Murphy has been able to step into a number 1, number 2 option as a scorer, and that's really helped him to be able to develop his overall game. And I'm actually kind of curious to see like how real this little star leap he's taking. You know, the last 15 games, averaging 24 points per game on 47, 37, 94 splits this year.
That's crazy.
And yeah, and it's not like, even when you have injuries, you don't really have like players that are able to do that and take that kind of a scoring lead and maintain efficiency like that. So this is just another game for Trey where he continues to solidify himself that he's one of the best stories coming out of the Pelicans season, despite the fact that honestly, they're way worse than I thought they would be. I thought they would be a fringe playoff team. They would be in the play-in, and they would be pushing everybody to the brink. But, you know, just the way similar to the Magic, but honestly, even worse for the Pelicans, it's just really hard to maintain anything when you don't have your guys as much as they've had for the course of this year. But I'm really happy to see what Trey Murphy has done.
Yeah, shout out to Trey Murphy. Hornets over the Bulls. They defeat the Bulls 125-123. The pain continues for the Chicago Bulls, man. 4 losses straight in a row. And it's just, I feel like every team, you have that point in the season where whether it's a good stretch, whether your team's starting to play better, you just kind of know and start feeling like, okay, this is probably how this season's going to go for this team. I think this is the nail in the coffin for the Bulls season. I know they're still 10th in the Eastern Conference. I know all that. But ultimately, like, this is a team that we've lost 2 games against the Wizards. We lost against the Nets. We lost against the Pelicans. This team continues to lose against teams, plays down to level of competition. For anyone that actually got a chance to watch this game, you saw that they just got outworked, allowing 14 second chance points in the fourth quarter where they didn't score any. You end up losing by 2. Just a little bit of effort. This was a winnable game, and the Bulls continue to just lack in that area.
What do you think it is? Like, do you just feel like, is it a belief thing? Like, is it a culture thing? Is it they know they're just not good? Like, what do you feel like the issues are actually for the Bulls right now?
It's systemic at this point. I think it's culture. I think it's the whole organization from top to bottom. Like, we have some coaching issues, but Billy Donovan isn't a great coach, but he's not a horrible coach either. So that shouldn't necessarily hold you back as much as it's been. We have talent on this roster. Vooch and Zach are having some of the best seasons in recent memory.
Yeah.
It's just a culmination of everything going on. I do think it's just a culture thing. I don't think, like, Billy Donovan's recently come out and admitted, hey, we're in the middle. I don't know if we're going to get out the middle. And so when you say stuff like that, it's like, all right, so you don't even really believe in the roster is what I feel like is going on here.
Yeah, look, I really, truly feel for Bulls fans because I think it's so difficult to live in an in-between. You know, it's like Stranger Things, you know, the upside down world that you're living in right now. Everybody knows you're not good enough to contend. You're barely good enough to be a play-in team. You have a player on your roster that you clearly need to trade in Zach LaVine. He's playing so well that he's making it difficult for you to lose, but he's also, like, because of his injury history and because of the contract, quote unquote, people are not willing to trade for him around the NBA. But then you have Vooch, who's having a really good season, but not good enough to help you contend in the Eastern Conference.
Yep.
Like, they just have players that are like kind of borderline everything. And so that's causing so many issues to this roster. Then you're getting a really good season from Kobe White. And we're really the last 2 seasons you're getting from Kobe White. Lonzo's coming back, trying to find himself again. You're getting Josh Giddey. How do you feel about how Josh Giddey played today?
Josh Giddey it's such a mixed bag with Josh. He played bad. Like, and the thing is, Josh Giddey is such a confidence player. I've been saying this for a while. You know by the end of the first quarter what type of game is going to be for Josh Giddey, because if his confidence gets shaken either offensively or defensively, it's shot. And Billy Donovan doesn't have a bunch of confidence in him either. He pulls him and he sits down, and then at that point it's like, I don't know. Like, Josh Giddey, he's going to have his games where he looks great. He's going to have his games where he looks bad. And overall, I just think that this roster doesn't help a lot of his shortcomings, and I think we see a lot of that maximized too.
6 or 7 months later now, do you feel like that Caruso Giddey trade was not a good trade for the team overall?
Oh yeah, it wasn't a good trade. I thought it at the time, and I think it's been
Okay.
proven more and more now as it goes on, especially with like how Kobe's game has had to
Yeah.
change to adapt with Giddey as well. Next game, Grizzlies. 140 points scored against the San Antonio Spurs.
Yep.
Listen, I'm not somebody like me and actually one of your co-hosts, Matt. We're on Locked On NBA every day together, and one of the things that he knocks Wemby's chances of winning a Defensive Player of the Year award is because the San Antonio Spurs aren't a great defense overall. And when you have games like this, I can kind of understand the case that he's making. The Memphis Grizzlies basically did whatever they wanted down the stretch of this game. What do you think, Swipe?
So Memphis, the game, I can't remember the exact score, bro. It might have been like 82-82, almost 82-84, 80-82. Memphis went on a 14-0 run, if I remember like what happened. Because I remember I had the game on, and I think I like turned back to look at like the Nuggets game or something, and then all of a sudden, like it was a blowout, and I'm like, when did that happen? And again, like Memphis, they're just like they're one of the best teams in the league for a reason. Like they just have like they have a lot of things they can get to like at one point in time. The game was, let me check this for you. So the game was 82-80, and then that was at the 5-minute and 17-second mark. That score basically blossomed to 100 to 86 and then ended at 102 to 86 at the end of the third quarter. And they just started making jump shots. They started turning the ball over for the Spurs. And then, you know, that's just kind of how it works with them, man. Like their defense locks in, they start hitting jumpers. And if you let them get hot offensively, they can take advantage of you. Now, the thing about Wemby that like I think it's not super fair to Wemby, like I definitely understand like the context of the rest of the roster. You want them to be like an elite defense, you know what I mean? Like in terms of like on paper over the course of the year. But like Wemby, they have a 110.6 defensive rating when he's on the court. I mean, that's really good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's really good. But like it's also like they just don't have like a defensive leaning roster. And so when Wemby's on the court and then he doesn't have to like cover for like Devin Vassell and them, like they actually get even better as a defense. But right now, I think because the team's so young, they're trying to figure out like exactly who they are. Like it's just going to be a process. And so I'm also of the mind, I thought Chet Holmgren was going to be the runaway DPOY. And I thought if Isaiah Hartenstein got a chance to play more games, I think he could be in the DPOY discussion as well. Like and Evan Mobley's another guy that can be in the DPOY discussion, let alone win. So there are several players. But I think the issue is, bro, is that OKC's defense is the best in the league, but the only player you could really award for the DPOY is Lou Dort. But I don't know if they're going to give a guard or a wing another DPOY, you know.
Yeah, and I think Wemby with the blocks too. Like he's probably going to get him in, but like the Spurs aren't like I agree they aren't an elite defense. They have some solid defensive fundamentals, but I mean Wemby's going to win plenty of DPOYs over the course of his career. I have no worry about that. He's going to win plenty of them. But this season, I do think Jaren Jackson Jr. deserves to be in the conversation. I wouldn't mind putting Lou Dort in the conversation, but like you said, it's really difficult for guards to get in that. They have to have basically a super elite, a lockdown season for that to happen. Last game on the docket tonight before we get out of here, the Los Angeles Lakers 102-101 to the Brooklyn Nets. This is the type of game why people don't necessarily take the Lakers serious, because you allow this game to become interesting down the stretch of this game. The Brooklyn Nets are without Cam Thomas in this game. Not to say that means they don't still have talent. They do overall. They have 6 players scoring in the double figures in this game. But the Los Angeles Lakers, to me, with the talent that you had LeBron playing. It shouldn't be this situation. But what do you think, Swipe?
Well, the Lakers offense outside of AD and Austin Reeves was mid today. So they just were struggling as shot makers. Austin Reeves, 38 points today and 3 rebounds and 3 assists. He was 4 of 8 from 3 as well. Like just a dominant game from Austin Reeves. LeBron James, 12 of 16 from the field in 35 minutes, 29, 7, and 8, and 4 of 5 from 3. So LeBron continued his resurgence ever since he took a little bit of a layoff over the course of the year. But again, the important note here is that Anthony Davis didn't play. Just give him another rest, allow him to just, deal with some of the minor injuries that he has. And so they just don't have their full squad. I mean, that's really been the story of the year. They don't have their full squad. They're not a very good team. And so today, I think that's more so what the actual thing was. Like they don't, outside of Reeves, James, and Max Christie and Rui, maybe, outside of that, there's a big talent drop off for that roster. So I think that's more so why they struggled today without AD.
Yeah, and hopefully, like AD is so important, and that's why, like, you hear things like the Lakers maybe they're trying to add a defender or maybe another center. I think that could really help if they're able to add somebody like a Walker Kessler. I think that, and I know it's not like Walker Kessler's a star level player, but I think he
really
can have such a positive impact on the way that this team needs to play basketball that I do think things will change for them.
Yeah, agreed, 100%.
We'll see. But that's it for today. Unless you got anything else, Swiper?
No, that's it. Shout out to you, man. All the great work you're doing.
I appreciate it, man. Make sure you guys are staying in tune with us, following us at Locked On NBA, subscribing to this channel. You get Locked On Game Night every night, plus you get Locked On NBA. You get 2 shows for the price of 1. Go to support Swiper over at Locked On Nuggets as well. We'll be back next Friday for you guys, man. Yeah, that's it for us. Peace, y'all.